I want to talk about what codependency really is, what that word really means, because it gets thrown around a lot. I've certainly thrown it around a lot. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not trained in anything. I'm just someone living life and someone who has had experience in a connection that I would say was viciously codependent. I was in that connection for 10 years. And now on the other side of it, I want to express my personal experience and understanding of what that word actually means. It's not a word that originated in psychology. From my understanding, it's a word that originated in Alcoholics Anonymous, talking about having a dependency on substance, on something to take you away. There's no way I can get away from this, so hopefully I can speak clearly enough, loudly enough, and I apologize. But this is what it is, being outside. What codependency actually is, in my understanding, is two people forming a connection, relating to one another, based almost entirely on a sense of mutual brokenness. So I perceive myself as broken, as incomplete, as damaged, as something's wrong with me. And I meet somebody and we relate to one another. And that's why it can be more than one type of relationship. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be any kind of relationship. Two people that connect and agree, I'm broken, you feel broken. We relate to one another from this basis, from this foundation of mutual brokenness. Our perception that each one of us is somehow damaged goods. We're incomplete. We're just wrong in some way. And because that's where we form the foundation of our relationship, we're feeding into each other's identities. There's an identity there. Identifying as broken. The broken identity, the broken self, that's a story. That's a story we've had in our heads, and neither one of us has the awareness at this point in time to realize that that is in fact a story. That is not the truth of ourself. Who we think we are is not who we are. But we're not there yet. We're not at that place of awareness, of consciousness, of waking up to realize this is all a narrative that I don't have to follow. And so through our relationship, we are reinforcing one another's identity of brokenness in various ways. And because we feel broken, we feel deeply unworthy, right? And there's a sense of worthiness established. There's a sense of self. There's a sense of pride. There's a good feeling, kind of. Very small, surface level good feeling. But there's a security around my reinforcement of your broken identity and your reinforcement of mine. And we may find other ways to feel worthy by serving each other, doing something in some way that makes up for that space, that lack, that feeling inside of us that we haven't found a way to generate ourselves. So you become a pathway to my feeling worthy, and vice versa. Because I feel so deeply unworthy in my identification with brokenness, I now make you and my connection with you, and maybe the things I do for you, my pathway to feeling worthy. So you can see already how this is not a connection that is built on healthy, good feeling ground. It's not a connection that is leading anyone to actually loving themselves. And that's not a judgment of it. That's just a statement of fact. And here's where it gets really messy and tricky, is if one of us decides, if one of us has the awareness and we start to realize, or we just get tired, we get tired of the suffering. That's what happens for most of us. We get sick of feeling like shit and thinking badly about ourselves, and we start to realize I don't have to listen to these thoughts. I have a choice. Maybe I'm not broken. Maybe in this state that I am right now, I am perfect. I am whole. I am exactly as I am meant to be, as I intend to be. And we start down that pathway of self-acceptance and love. That's what actual personal development is. People think working on yourself means fixing. Working on yourself means recognizing there's nothing to fix. That's the work, is generating awareness, stepping back out of your thoughts, disconnecting from that identity of broken. It's the identity of broken that thinks you need to be fixed. When you can realize there's a whole drama taking place within you that isn't you and is not affecting you, except when you buy into it and you allow it to, that's the work. And it's not asking any of that to change. It's just witnessing it, right? Seeing that this is taking place. There's a part of me that feels broken and that is deeply identified with that and really, really wants to stay broken, actually, because there's a sense of self in that. And then there's the part in opposition to that that wants to fix. It sees the brokenness and it's dissatisfied with it. And these things are always in a tug of war. They're always struggling against each other. And then I realize I'm neither of those things. I am not broken, and I don't need to be fixed, and I don't need to identify with any of this. I am whole and complete and perfect and worthy, in fact, exactly as I am, witnessing this tug of war within myself. So then one party starts to accept, starts to really feel self-love, starts to practice self-appreciation. That's unconditional love, which is true love. It is actually what love is. Love is unconditional. Every other form, egoic form, is transactional and is a tiny sliver. I wouldn't even call it love. I don't have another word for it, but I wouldn't. So one party begins to accept themselves, begins to recognize they are not broken, and neither is this other person. Nobody's broken. We're all whole. We're all worthy. We're all well, exactly as we are. But because one party has changed their perception of self, if the other person is not at the same level and ready and willing, desiring to make the same shift in consciousness, it all goes haywire. Because now the basis of our connection is called into question. We're losing our connection with each other because our connection was based on the broken identity. But not only that, your detachment from brokenness is calling my sense of self into question. I love all of these sounds happening, really. It feels big, it feels important. Now, because you are no longer perceiving yourself as broken and myself as broken, you are calling into question my perception of reality. You are calling my identity, my experience of the world into question. And if I don't have the same level of awareness to observe that this is not actually me feeling these things and feeling threatened, if I don't have that same level of consciousness, I'm deeply invested with and identified with the broken identity. All I want is for you to go back to being broken. It's a huge threat for one person in this codependent relationship to start loving themselves. If both parties are not doing that simultaneously, then one inevitably is going to try to bring the other one back into this place of believing in their brokenness, because that was where our connection was formed. We no longer have a connection. If we're not broken together, then who are we? Who am I? If you're not broken and I'm not broken, then who am I? And I'm not ready to accept that. No, I'm broken. I'm clinging to this. And so, of course, I'm going to speak words to you that are going to reinforce your brokenness and your unworthiness, that too. Because here's another part of it. My ability to feel worthy was dependent on you feeling unworthy. Because I haven't figured out how to tap into that for myself. So in your feeling unworthy and broken, and my identifying also with that, I was able to do things for you that made me feel worthy. But now that you don't need me to do those things to feel good about yourself, I don't know how to feel worthy anymore. I need you to go back to feeling broken and unworthy so that I can find a way to feel worthy again. So there's going to be a big reaction. There's going to be a massive triggering. And there's going to be a lot of this insulting, bringing down, trying to bring down, because this identity, this id entity, because it is an entity that I have identified with and is essentially possessing me, has taken over. And it wants to keep living. It wants to keep feeding. And in order to do that, it needs you to come back down to this level. And that's where these relationships fall apart. And you see it time and again. And it's what I have experienced. One person, usually one, I'm not going to say every time, it's absolutely possible that both parties come to this realization, this self-realization, simultaneously or pretty close, or maybe they drift apart and they come back together, but whatever. Most of the time, one party has the realization first, and they catch on to the whole thing. They see the whole game that's been played out, the whole drama that they've been participating in perpetuating this narrative of mutual brokenness. And when that person starts to claim their worthiness, it triggers the other one. The broken identity in that one reacts with volatility because it's being threatened directly. Its existence is being threatened. And the other person says, wow, I actually don't have to engage in this anymore. I don't need to be a part of this. This is now your journey to come to self-acceptance and self-love, and we're done. Goodbye. I no longer need you to feel worthy. You really don't need me to feel worthy, but you're not going to figure that out until later. And that's really not anything for me to be involved with. Maybe I'm the catalyst for that, maybe not. Maybe that shell just gets harder. Maybe I form a little crack. Maybe it bursts wide open. I don't know, but it's not my business, really. Now is the time for me to embrace worthiness, to stand in my knowledge of not broken, that I am not broken and neither are you. And in fact, this is a wonderful opportunity for me to do that, because as you are vehemently arguing your brokenness to me, I get to stand in the face of that and say, nope, you're not. You're not broken. Even in all of this, you're not broken. And I get that that's upsetting to this identity that has taken a deep root in you. But even the depth of that root doesn't change your wholeness, doesn't change your wellness, doesn't change the truth that you are worthy and you are well and you are complete and you are not broken and you don't need fixing. And neither do I. So I'm going to go on with life with that awareness, carry that forward with me, start perceiving the world differently. All of the world now I see is whole, well and worthy. Nothing's broken, nothing needs fixing. That's a very different life experience. And we vibrate out of each other's reality because we're not on the same page anymore. Codependency is based on being on the same wavelength of mutual brokenness. And when one of us realizes nobody's broken and nobody needs fixing, that connection dissolves. That's it. That's it. That's all I had to say. I think there's a lot of just overcomplication of what codependency means. It has nothing to do with wanting to be with someone all the time or really liking being around them or having their attention. It's a much different, deeper thing than that. And from my perspective and experience, it has only everything to do with the foundation of the connection being we're both incomplete individuals. Because you can absolutely have a connection with someone on the basis of completion. I am whole. I am not broken, neither are you. And also, I fucking love you and I want to spend all my time with you because it feels good to me. Because it feels good to be showering my love upon you. It feels good to give my attention to this. It's not a need, it's a desire, it's a want, and it's wholly owned within me. It's self-satisfying, and I don't need you for anything. I don't need you to feel worthy. I don't need you to feel good about myself, but I have the pleasure of loving you, and because it's pleasurable to me, I want to do it as often and as close as possible. That's it. That's it. That's not codependency, that's just love. That's all I have to say on the topic. Have a beautiful day. Love yourself. You're worthy. You're perfect. You are well. There is nothing you need to fix. Just accept. That's all. That's all it is. Take it easy.